And now, here's Jeff Crilley.
Good Saturday morning, DFW. We've got a kind of a rainy day going, but a wonderful show. We're going to be talking about so many different subjects, but we're going to start off with one that I think is just so compelling. Everybody, of course, remembers the Dallas police shootings last summer and the impact that made, not just on our community, but on the whole nation. My first guests, Banning Swetland and Ross Connor, they are with an organization called Emergency Operations Proving Grounds, or E.O.P.G. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff.
Great
Appreciate
to be here.
it.
And this is a nonprofit that was really born from this tragedy. Banning, why don't we start with you? How did this begin?
Okay, Jeff. Well, what I did was ever since 9/11, and I hate to bring that up, is I've been creating notes ever since then. I've been a police officer right after 9/11, and I've saw a lot of issues that unfortunately some administrators didn't see in reference to training. I knew we needed a lot more training. I'm a patrol officer full-time. I'm a police officer in Haltom City. And we have a great administration, I want to say that at first, but there always needs to be more training. We need to learn how to work better with the community, for one. Two, we need to be able, whenever a threat happens to our general public, we need to be able to go in there and stop that threat a lot faster than the current trend. A lot less casualties is what we're aiming for. We have devised several instructors that have that ability to be able to train your average police officer how to be more tactful and how to be able to go in there and to, I hate to use the word eliminate, but to eliminate that threat so the citizens are safer.
And so, Ross, you're in charge of fundraising. When you go out to the community to ask for money, how do you explain this organization and why it's so necessary?
Well, I think we all have. Banning mentioned, his watershed moment was the Dallas 5, and that was really the genesis of the organization and the movement here and the facility that we're going to build. Mine was the Orlando shooting at that nightclub, just because people were trapped in there. They had and so there was no way out. They had no, and you had the people inside in trouble and a lack of communication, really, in response that cost people's lives on the outside coming in. So we wanted to bring in training not only for first responders, to train interdepartmentally, where you have a facility that will house fire, EMS, dispatch, police, all training at the same time in response to a realistic scenario, and then train civilians as well. So we have the facility from a fundraising standpoint. Why are we even talking fundraising? This is just it's a training facility for first responders. Well, there's only one facility like this in the whole United States that even comes close, and it's over in Georgia. This is a $120 million facility.
Wow.
Built over 3 phases in 5 years. It is going to be hard to convince private investors that they're going to recoup a capital investment anytime soon on that. So we have started a 501c3, and we are running this as a true nonprofit in order to raise money. And we're undertaking a capital campaign right now, and it's gone well. We're getting the word out, and that's why we're here. We appreciate it.
Excellent. Banning, paint me a picture. What this sounds like, kind of like the Taj Mahal of training facilities. Is this where you have reenactments, or is it video based, or all of the above?
Let me kind of break it down. Right now, the current trend, unfortunately, is in a major metropolitan area like Dallas, Fort Worth, what have you, is police officers will train with police officers, fire will train with fire, EMS, dispatchers, they all have their own individual training. When this major event occurs, that individual training doesn't allow us to work as one unit. That's where E.O.P.G comes in. When we train for an event, we're going to have everybody train as one unit. So when that city unfortunately has the worst happen, they're going to be so much more used to it, and we're going to bring some expertise training in it to make each unit better.
Wow. And it's not just first responders. You can train the public or private security companies.
Absolutely.
And that's been a thing that's been vetted pretty thoroughly. We've got a strong team of not only board members, but an advisory board with FBI. We've had a really strong team come together to advise us on, is it proper to train and safe to train individuals in the public versus and so we have a way to do it, and we've devised a facility that will accommodate both. And there are about probably in the initial 2 or 3 phases, Jeff, there's probably about 10 to 12 structures, main structures, including a training center, a training city with a shoot house, movable walls, EVOC course for driving safety. We're looking at several possibilities on land that we've identified, and we're taking steps, and it's going well.
It would seem, I think the general public assumes that every police officer is already trained in this and gets retrained every year. I don't know how does that work, Banning?
Sure. All police, and like I said, I'm a full-time police officer, and I work on patrol right now. We do get training, and my agency is one of the highest trained agencies around here. We're a smaller agency, Haltom City, but our administrator and our chief believe that we need more and more training. So we are doing, but we're doing more than most of the metropolitan cities around here. I wish every city could do that. So it costs a lot of money to train, and what E.O.P.G is bringing is what they pay these at-profit companies, which are great companies, okay, is they're just charging so much to where it's eating away at this general fund's budget. So we want to be able to come in and bring in better training for a lot lower cost. To give you an example, and I'm just throwing some numbers out here, you take one patrol officer and you want to send them to an advanced patrol officer's training, you can spend up to $1,500 a day for that class at an at-profit place, not including the ammunition that officer's going to need, which everybody knows is very expensive. We can do that for either just under $100 or just over $100 for that officer, so you can see the price difference.
Right.
That's how we built our business plan to succeed at this.
So most recently, we think about the congressional shooting on the baseball field. Would your facility address something like that?
We can train as long as we have just a little bit of time to vet the organization that we're training, but it doesn't stop. We can train corporations how to have a proper active shooter plan in place. And I'm not talking about armed people. I'm just talking about your standard office building. We can cover that training. We can come and do a seminar, or we can do some one-on-one consultation with these people to show them what to do if that event were ever to take place. And I don't want to get it. We do more than just active shooter training. We're going to be able to do basic training all the way up to any priority one call. I don't want to just focus on active shooter, but that is a big part.
Well, recently in Europe, we're seeing this trend, unfortunately, of people using cars and trucks as weapons. What is the solution to something like that?
If I knew that solution, a lot can change. This is something that you have to have a facility to be able to run that scenario over and then look at all the different variables. Once we have the facility, we will be able to recreate that over and over and over again, and then based off the findings and facts, how do we train our first responders to react to it?
Absolutely. Well, Ross, what kind of response have you been getting when you go out to companies and ask for support?
It's been a warm response, I would say. It is the dripping of the faucet, though. It takes consistency. It takes a lot of PR. Banning's been very good in social media, and we've got a good team in place. Not just he and I, but there's we have about a board comprised of about 8 board members, and the advisory council and those other consultants comprise about another 10. So we've got a lot of people around us right now, and it's been warm. Most of what we're doing now is in response to what some major donors have advised us to do. Take baby steps, start operations now, which we're doing. We're doing online training. We're about to secure a smaller facility to get a track record. And getting a track record in order to get donors to donate for the first time or match donations is huge, obviously. And so it's a great idea, but an idea is just an idea. So we're putting some feet to the plan, and we've already started operations. The ultimate goal is the $120 million facility, and that's going to be it's coming. It's just we started small.
So I'm going to ask a question, and I don't know if either of you have the answer, but I was in the news business from basically the early 80s until 2008, and it seems like every few years we would get a mass shooting incident. We'd get a tragedy that would captivate the nation, and now it seems like every other week. What's going on?
Well, in reference to the police department, law enforcement, and first responder side, we're still being reactionary. So we have this big incident, and then we react to it. We need to learn how to be proactive. Once you start developing things in your head and you start putting it out on paper of what could happen, and you start training for that, when the next event does happen, you can drastically reduce any type of casualties.
Ross, what are your thoughts?
I have a really close friend in the Marine Corps, and he served a couple of tours over in Iraq. And in one of the battles in Fallujah, he was able he earned a bronze star through his efforts. And I talked to him. He's a really close friend. I said, "What was it like?" Right? Everybody on the outside wants to know. And he said, and this is one thing that stuck with me. He said, because of the training I went through and how realistic it was, he goes, I literally felt like a robot just doing exactly what I'd been trained to do. And so when I said, when you got in the fight, he goes, that my blood pressure wasn't up. I was able to think clearly, just operate exactly like they trained me. And so that stuck with me. And so our goal is, like Banning said, is to create realistic scenarios, come up with scenarios. It's getting, I'm with you, Jeff. It's getting crazier and crazier. And it's not just London. It's not just Paris. That one of the worst things that can happen is for somebody to target a school in Topeka, Kansas. That right. And so that's where you have to focus. And so we're in an age where we can't take anything for granted, and that's kind of the basis of E.O.P.G. is anything's possible, so let's be prepared. And there's no facility anywhere close that matches the scope and size of E.O.P.G. And so that's where and that's why I think the public's accepted it.
Tell us about your website and how folks can get involved.
Absolutely, Jeff. If everybody would like to go to, it's just www.eopg.org. You'll see, the site's not big enough to where we can explain everything, but you're going to see a basic starting point of where we're at and where we're going. There's also a donate on there. Again, as we mentioned before, we're a 501c3, so I'm not sure. I'm not a CPA. I believe it's anything over $150 or $200, and you can actually take a tax break for it. But if we were just to have thousands of people donate a couple dollars, it would put us so much further in where we are now. We can start this training in much larger numbers than we're doing right now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. You guys were great, and we'll have to have you back sometime.
Love it.
Thank you, sir.
When we come back, a man who's making a mark in the legal world through technology solutions that law firms can't live without. That's next on The Jeff Crilley Show.
More of The Jeff Crilley Show coming up.